Hey guys, today I'll give you my picks for my top 10 favorite movies that aren't Marvel or DC. For this list, we're going through some of my personal favorite movies that aren't based in Marvel or DC comics. Now be warned, there could be some spoilers ahead, so ahead of time, spoiler alert. Number 10, Dirty Grandpa. Kicking off our list is the comedy with Robert De Niro and Zac Efron about a man who loses his wife and wants to regain his youth and needs the help of his grandson to do so. Along the way, they actually start to bond together and they learn new things about each other. It's definitely one of the funniest films I've seen. It's filled with swearing and also a few racial slurs, but it is definitely a comedy I would so recommend. Number 9, How to Train Your Dragon franchise. A story about a tribe of Vikings that have been at war for dragons for 300 years until a young Viking manages a bond with a Night Fury. Seems impossible at first, but it worked in the books and it worked on the big screen. And there is supposed to be a third one coming out next year. We've already had 2 of them and a Netflix series and 2 TV series about them. And they've been quite successful. Seeing new dragon species in the films and in the series as well, it's definitely one of the more entertaining films and one of the more family-friendly ones on this list. Number 8, the Underworld franchise. Underworld is basically a sci-fi, horror, thriller, all that, about a war between Vikings? But a war that has been raging between vampires and lycans, werewolves, that's been going on for centuries. But it's basically what people have thought of for years, who would win a fight between a vampire and a werewolf. But we pretty much get it in movies with the incredibly sexy Kate Beckinsale as the main character, and she is definitely a badass. There's been 5 movies in the Underworld franchise, and they're all really entertaining. Number 7, the Predator franchise. Now we get into some really iconic films. The Predator franchise has been through so much, with the first one being made all the way back in the 80s with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and its less iconic sequel, Predator 2, which basically moves from a jungle into a city. But then we got Predators, which was a more updated version, and we got to see a few new Predators. But there's also The Predator this year, which looks really good, and I do want to see that. But these pretty much are the ultimate hunters when it comes to hunting for sport, and the Xenomorph should know that. Number 6, the A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. I'm not so much of a horror fan, so I don't like any of the paranormal stuff. But if it's like serial killers and all that, then I'm fine with it. So Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, all of that, I'm alright. But A Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite horror film franchise, to be honest. The story of a man with razor gloves that killed kids, was burnt to death, and now kills kids in their dreams. It's certainly enough to make you want to stay up all night, but it definitely has humorous parts and enough gore to satisfy even the most goriest of fans. But the original line is the best. The 2010 remake is terrible. It is one of the worst horror remakes ever. Trust me. Number 5, Pacific Rim. Now, when the first Pacific Rim came out back in 2013, the bar was set so high with it because of its success. The second one did not actually make up as much as the first one did. It was good, but the first one beat it in the long run. It was so much more successful in so many ways, but it definitely was a very joyous film, very entertaining. I think everyone has been waiting so long for a sequel to Pacific Rim, and we finally got it. Men in robots fighting giant aliens, is so entertaining, I just can't even. My aunt has actually said that it's probably how Transformers should have been made. I actually don't remember if it was Pacific Rim or if it was Real Steel. That is a good film as well. Number 4, the Alien franchise. Now we get to the prey from the Predators. The aliens, or xenomorphs, have become so iconic in the movies that they have made so many references made to them in other TV shows. 6 movies made about them. I've got them all. They're all good, except for the third one. They are by far one of the most iconic movie monsters that has ever been made. And there's actually a church where one of the gargoyles is a xenomorph, and the church was made in the 12th century, I think. Find out more about that, look it up. Number 3, Legend. Now we get to a fabulous film. It's so good. Starring Tom Hardy as both Ronnie and Reggie Gray. It's a story of how these two brothers acted with each other back in the 60s when they were gangsters, and how they made London their bitch, pretty much. But Tom Hardy plays both of these characters to the point. He actually said that if he couldn't play both of them, he wouldn't be in it at all. Tom Hardy has another film coming out this year. He has Venom, which comes out next Friday, October 5th. I have to see that. It's filled with so much swearing, so much violence, and so much history, actually. It's enough to entertain anyone, especially fans of the Kray twins. Number 2, the Star Wars franchise. Now, I'm obviously going to have the Star Wars franchise. Possibly the most famous movie franchise ever created has to be Star Wars. Normally when people think of Star Wars, they think of lightsabers, the dark side, the Death Star, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and the Force, of course. But when the first film came out, which was actually Episode 4, A New Hope, it made so much money and was so successful that we got all of it. We even got the prequels, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith, which is actually my favourite one. There's also a Star Wars film this year, which is Solo, a Star Wars story, much like Rogue One. Although I was actually a bit concerned about how that would actually turn out, but I gotta admit, Rogue One wasn't bad. We haven't got any honourable mentions, so let's get right into it. Number 1, the Transformers franchise. Now, anyone that knows me, you will be saying this is not a surprise. I've been a fan of Transformers ever since I was at least 4. I have been obsessed with them ever since. I still have every Transformers collectible that I have ever bought. And an ongoing war between the Autobots and the Decepticons has brought them to Earth, and the Autobots have found an ally in the humans. Spawning 5 movies, and also a spin-off for Bumblebee this year, which actually looks like a live-action G1 movie. They all have their iconic G1 look. It's just so cool. I love it. That's it, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe and comment what you think down below. And I'll come back tomorrow to give you another origin story. See you guys.